In Japan, low birth rates and a rapidly aging population is forcing the country to confront its long-held attitudes about immigration. Once wary of foreigners, Japan is now opening its doors, and Myanmar nationals are one of the fastest growing in the nation's foreign workforce. CNA's Michio Ishida has the report.
These workers in Yangon are having interviews for jobs in Japan. Competition is tough, with about 100 applicants vying for 20 vacancies in sectors like distribution and food processing. Ryoko Mataga, who represents a union of businesses, has been recruiting trainees here since 2016. One reason is a growing number in Myanmar speak Japanese.
ミャンマー日本語熱が非常に高いので、本当に最近応募してくる子は実は1年前から2年前から日本語を勉強してましたと、仕事をしながらも勉強してましたとか、そういう子たちが多いんですね。で、日本語学校に通うために仕事を辞めましたと。で、それは日本に行くことが目的だから。
Myanmar has been gripped by violence since a military coup in 2021, driving many of its people to seek refuge overseas. More than 70,000 are working in Japan as of 2023, a nearly 50% jump from the previous year, according to official figures. Myo Tan, a university graduate, came to Japan in September 2022 to work in cleaning and maintenance.
前の来た友達から日本は規則が厳しくて朝のところというのを聞いて、私も日本で働こうと思いました。チャンスがありましたら日本の有名なホテルで働きたいんです。
She qualified as a skilled worker due to her Japanese language ability. This means she can draw a salary similar to her local colleagues. It also means she can stay for 5 years, which provides stability for her and her employer.
就労制限だとかそういったところを考えますと、当社にとってもですね、メリット、あとリスクが少ないというところもありますので、今後も継続して積極的に採用の方はしていきたいなというふうに思っています。
In 2021, the Japanese government decided to allow those from Myanmar to extend their stay for a year after the expiration of their visa, in consideration of instability back home. Further extension of permit is allowed if instability continues in Myanmar. The elder care industry is one of the most eager to hire workers from Myanmar. An aging workforce means the sector could find itself short of 320,000 staff by next year, according to projections by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare. Kenji Sato set up an agency to recruit, train and match foreign workers to elder care facilities in 2016. He has brought in 120 workers from Myanmar since 2019.
各国を回りました。インドネシアであるとか、ベトナムであるとか、で最後に行った国がミャンマーということで、やっぱりミャンマーが一番日本の文化にも合ってるし、人間性も穏やかだし、仏教を厚く信仰しているというところでお国柄も合うということで、全員一致でミャンマーを選んだと。
Momo Kind was recruited as a trainee for this daycare facility last year.
日本はね、経済も決定していて、季節ごとに景色も美しいですから、選びました。
The elder care sector has stricter regulations on foreign workers. Because they need to communicate with the seniors, they have to speak some Japanese, even trainees. After 3 years here, Mo can qualify as a skilled worker and stay for another 5, or as long as she likes, if she passes a national exam for caregivers. She sought advice from her union.
4年目にならないと受けられないですけど、まずは日本語をしっかり勉強しましょうということを話しました。
Ms. Pyo, a Myanmar national, works under Ms. Mataga. She provides translation and visa support for countrymen and also clears up their doubts about their future in Japan.
実習終了後の進路について結構問い合わせとかはされます。
As Japan seeks to attract more talent, it is set to replace its foreign trainee scheme with an alternative that allows better rights protections and job flexibility. This could benefit the tens of thousands of Myanmar workers in Japan.
10年間働いたこれ終わったらミャンマーに帰ります。施設を建て介護の使い方を習って向こうに教えたい。
For now, she, like many others, is still waiting for stability to return to her homeland. Michio Ishida, CNA, Tokyo.
Well, as you saw there, Japan's aging society is prompting Tokyo to rethink their immigration strategy. The number of foreign workers in Japan surpassed 2 million for the first time last year, a record high. Well, despite polls suggesting more people are open to foreign workers now, a long-standing perception remains that Japan is closed to immigration, with issues like social acceptance and hurdles with language. Well, that impression appears to stick, at least in a high-profile case involving U.S. President Joe Biden, who in a fundraising event described Japan and some other countries as xenophobic. And for more, we have Akio Kawato. He's a former Japanese ambassador to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, as well as a columnist at Newsweek Japan. And we're also joined by senior correspondents Michio Ishida in Tokyo and Lim Yun-suk in Seoul. So let's start with you first, Mr. Kawato. I just wanted to follow up on President Biden's comment about Japan being xenophobic. Have you noticed things getting worse over the years?
I don't think so. I think maybe acceptance of foreigners by Japanese is getting better and better. Although, of course, some kind of apprehension remains. As far as Mr. Biden's statements, I'm not so much worried about it. I think that maybe Japanese media has made a hype of it. Too much fuss about it. I think Mr. Biden's statement is mostly oriented to domestic people, domestic audience.
Interesting. So, Mitch,
things are getting better.
All right, good to know. Things are getting better. Mitch, let's just bring you in here. Give us a sense of understanding. I'm wondering what kind of people are drawn to living and working in Japan. Because, you know, it seems like Japan tends to attract people who are a bit more introverted. Perhaps, you know, they enjoy solo activities like appreciating cherry blossoms or reading manga. Or is this a right depiction?
Okay, well, let me give you the status of foreign residents in Japan. They're led by permanent residents, or 28%. In terms of working status, it's topped by professionals, followed by technical trainees. Now, the technical trainee category is expected to be abolished soon due to criticism that foreign trainees are used as cheap labor. Now, the top 3 nationalities in Japan come from Vietnam, China, the Philippines, and the recent rise are from Indonesia, Myanmar, and Nepal. And there are those, as you say, coming to Japan drawn to its anime, manga, to Kyoto, for instance, for its scenic historic site. The young foreign workers also tell me that it's easy to convince their parents to work in Japan because it's a safe country, and they aim to acquire skills in, for instance, the hospitality sector, elder care, so they can one day go back to their home country to start their own business.
Now, Yun-suk, so South Korea and Japan may share some similarities. I just want to highlight just this weekend, the head of the South Korean Medical Association's response to a foreign doctor hiring plan blasted as clearly racist, because he shared a post on this newly graduated Somali doctors with the comment coming soon. Serious backlash for that. Is there a strong bias against foreigners, especially those from, you know, certain continents or countries like Southeast Asia, India, Pakistan?
Well, sadly, yes. There is still a lot of discrimination here. Now, South Korea is still a very homogeneous society, and it's very difficult for South Koreans to accept foreigners as one of us, even though, the foreigners may even have Korean nationality. Now, there was a survey conducted by Statistics Korea in 2022, and on 20,000 foreigners in the country, and about 32% of them said they experienced some kind of discrimination from South Koreans. Now, currently, there are also about 1 million foreign workers here in the country, and mostly in this so-called 3D industries, like, the agriculture, factories, places where South Koreans are reluctant to work at. And that's why many experts here are saying that these foreign workers are much needed here in South Korea. It's important for South Koreans to accept them because, especially since we know that South Korea's workforce population is shrinking. But talking to a lot of South Koreans here, many of them say, it is important to look at the country's history, where Korea survived invasions and occupations for centuries and still managed to keep their language and ethnic identity. And many Koreans say they are worried that, they will lose all of that if they start accepting foreigners into the country, and that's why they're still against it. Now, Dr. Kawato, I have a question for you. I'm curious, with South Korea and Japan both facing a rapid elderly society, low birth rates, the people, both the Japanese and Koreans, will have to realize that they don't have a choice but have to accept and welcome these foreigners sooner or later. So do you think that will be possible? Will there be, hopefully very soon, a day when when both countries will start accepting them? Or do you think they'll keep on pushing back as long as they can before accepting the foreigners into their lives?
I don't think that that is a matter of ideas or ideology, whether we should accept more or should not. I think maybe the actual needs, decide many things. Now, as you pointed out, many Japanese sectors need workers, foreign workers, including foreign workers. And the necessary number of foreign workers brought in always. It's not the matter whether we should or not or should not. We are inviting more and more foreign workers, although this is mostly limited to so-called physical work. As far as intellectual work is concerned, of course, several CEOs of Japanese major companies are now foreigners. But finding a job in such intellectual job depends upon each case.
Sure. But Michio, I want to highlight there is this landmark lawsuit, this particular one, that's filed by 3 foreign-born residents of Japan against the government for racial profiling, for instance. How significant is this case, and what message do you think the verdict will send to the international community?
Well, let me show you a survey. According to Tokyo Bar Association survey of those with foreign roots, 60% of respondents said they were actually questioned by police in the past 5 years, and 70% said they felt intimidated. Now, responding to police questioning is voluntary, but the police would not let them go, and some were questioned for about 2 hours. But are there rising criminal cases by foreign residents in Japan? Well, with the rise of foreign residents in Japan, or over 2 million as of the end of 2022, it's rising according to police statistics, but it's not stunning. And taking the possible racial profiling seriously, however, U.S. Embassy in Tokyo, we've heard, has issued a warning in 2021, but the Japanese government denied ethnicity or nationality as the reason. Now, Ambassador Kawato, do you think racial profiling could develop into a diplomatic issue?
It may develop into that. And the explanation by our government is just official. And maybe we cannot take it as face value. And maybe even there are some excess cases, I think our policemen should be educated in order to avoid such kinds of understanding. Yeah, that's it.
So, Yoon Suk, now I remembered hearing about Seoul's plan to bring in foreign maids to boost birth rates along those lines. What happened to that initiative, and was there some kind of roadblock?
Well, it's still ongoing. The plan is still there. It was last year when the Labor Ministry announced plans to allow about 100 domestic workers from abroad to enter South Korea. And the aim of this was to help the whole household chores and children in the capital, Seoul. Now, there were reports that it was going to start late last year, early this year, but it has been delayed. And now we're told that these domestic workers would likely come from the Philippines, and that the Seoul city government is going to be carrying out tests on them, who wanted their jobs and who want to come to South Korea. And the plan is to bring them in around August. But, bringing them into South Korea is not going to be easy. I mean, this is an issue that has been debated by political parties, experts throughout the country, because first there's the language problem, and also the question of how much they should be paid has been a big issue here. Now, the Seoul city government says that they will be paid the minimum wage, and that's about $7. And so on a monthly basis, that would be about 2 million won. That's about $1,460. And so there are lots of people saying that's too high, while some of the people in the labor unions are saying that we still have to pay them the minimum wage. And also another big issue is the housing. Where are they going to stay? Because most South Korean homes don't have this maid rooms, and many South Koreans would be reluctant to have them stay in their house. So the Seoul city government is now talking about building a dormitory for these workers. And so lots of issues still being debated. So we'll have to see how this turns out. It is still, in a pilot program. But if it is successful, it could help bring about, changes to South Korean young people's lives, because they are here. They're going to be here to help with the household chores and to help with the children here in South Korea.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this discussion. Thank you so very much, Akio Kawato, former Japanese ambassador to Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and columnist at Newsweek Japan. Also, big thank you to our senior correspondents, Michio Ishida in Tokyo and Lim Yoon Suk in Seoul.